Hi everyone, this is Dan, and this is the Lucent Waking Dream by Michael Bancroft. And I think I already talked about what actually came with the book, so I'm not going to go too much into that. But we'll just get right into it. The Lucent short review is not for me. No, it doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. Because depending on your tastes, you may really enjoy these type of stories. But for me, I personally, and for those of you who know the channel, I'm not really into weird stories or really bizarre sort of, Grant Morrison level kind of stuff. Not to say that this is like Grant Morrison. I would say no. I think this is probably, if you're a fan of Christopher Nolan movies, like especially, Inception, maybe a little bit of some other sort of sci-fi fantasy kind of stuff, then I think the Lucent is probably a really interesting read. For me though, since I've kind of made it very clear what kind of stories I like, I tend to like stories that have kind of a clear defined goal and a plot, that introduce their characters fairly quickly, and the setting fairly quickly, or at least efficiently, right, throughout the story. And I like complete stories, right? And the Lucent is literally none of those. Let's just jump into it real quick here. You got a nice signature from Mr. Bancroft. By the way, this came from Australia, and I don't know where you printed it, but the print quality is excellent. I will say this is a very nice book. Like, honestly, a little too nice. I almost feel bad thumbing through this thing because I'm kind of, you know me, I'm very rough with my books, right? But yeah, so we start off and we have like a scene here in basically the Middle East in like before Christ, like ancient times and whatnot. And they're basically talking about a curse, and here's a father bringing a son, and they're talking about some guy, you know, the Olam, and a bunch of magic stuff, and not really sure where this is going. And then you have the Lucent, and, you know, here's a story by Michael Bancroft, edited by Joe Fulton, lettered by Eric Weathers. And then we jump over 14 years ago. 14 years ago from what, right? I guess that, like, we're kind of working backwards here. And you have, now we're somewhere else, and it's apparently modern time, and this guy's jumping around in the rain, and he's talking about Le Marechal, or Le Marechal. Don't know how the French actually pronounce it right here. But this dude's like freaking being chased after by this guy. And you get the first mention of the concept and the term Lucent, which, by the way, doesn't come up for the rest of this book. I actually still, having read this, I still don't know what a Lucent is, or what it even means in the context of this story, which is a problem, because it's the name of the book, right? And he runs around, and it's a lot of movie scenes, right? Like everything, like the visual storytelling of this book does not really invoke comic book. It invokes movies. Like, it invokes like shots out of a Christopher Nolan movie, right? Which, if you're a fan of Christopher Nolan movies, and to a degree, I do enjoy some of his movies. It's kind of nice, but if you're more of a comic book fan, you know, then some of this seems to kind of drag on and whatnot. And there's some interesting stuff here. Like, here's something interesting. He opens the door, and you got a caption here: the door squeals like a stuck pig. But there's literally, like, you know, this screeching word, you know, lettering that's right here across the thing. So you don't actually need that. You could have said something else, right? Like, what's actually going on here? I would like to know that, right? Like, what is actually going on here, right? We're talking about how he feels about stuff, or, you know, this situation, you know, where his apparently, like, his wife is dead, and, you know, he opens up this water, and then, you know, these dudes splash out of the water, right? And then there's, you know, his daughter and a couple of dudes, and his daughter's got, you know, a, you know, black eye. Like, why does she have a black eye? I'm not really sure. And then they kind of talk to each other, and apparently they got to take her daughter away, but they're not going to be able to take him away. because if they do, then this guy with the cowboy fedora is going to get revealed, but he can't let himself get revealed. So, right. And then the French dude that's chasing after them finds them, right? And we're kind of alluded to that he's really, really strong and really powerful. So these two guys have to run away. So they do run away, and he has to say goodbye to his daughter because reasons. And then he gets basically killed by French John Wick. And then we jump to the present. And one thing I will definitely credit to Michael Bancroft, and I think this is what sold me on the comic book when I first backed it, is he is really good at backgrounds. I think there isn't really a panel here where I think his backgrounds are necessarily bad. Like, obviously, this is probably the best one to pick, right? This is very good. I think this is this 3-point perspective? I think this is 3-point perspective. But yeah, no, his backgrounds are excellent. Sometimes his figures can get a little bit wonky or odd at times. And I think his action, at least for me, having read a lot of manga, I think his action needs a little bit of work. But, it's not necessarily something that's bad, right? He gets the point across, but you're not going to necessarily think the action in his books is like top of the line, but his backgrounds certainly are. In fact, a lot of his backgrounds and the way that he goes about showing and drawing backgrounds in every panel, it kind of reminds me of the European comics in a way. It's actually really nice and really refreshing. So this is why I'm kind of like, normally I would rail and probably rip on a book a little bit harder. But I think, there's clearly a lot of effort and work gone into this book. And I think for Michael Bancroft, I think he intended for a lot of this confusion and mystery and confusion in terms of the storytelling here. And I can tell by reading what he's doing that he is a competent writer, right? He knows how to write prose. I don't think he is like incompetent at writing. I just think he has sort of a unique taste of what he wants to do for a story, and that taste is literally the opposite of what I like. So I want to kind of make it clear, I don't think this is a bad book, but I do think that you're going to have to be of a particular type of you're going to have like a particular taste to really like the Lucent. And that taste is wacky, weird shit. like kind of mind-boggling stuff is what you're really gonna want when you're reading this book. But anyway, we get introduced to this character, Ella, as she got older after she was rescued. And you get some pretty interesting sort of, animation panels right here. A lot of like these, there's going to be a lot of pages where there's basically no writing going on. It's just a lot of him kind of doing basically shots, right? So here you can see her kind of like, she falls off this building and then she stops herself. So it kind of gives you those weird sort of Matrix, like, does she have like some kind of magical superpowers or something? You're introduced to Damon, who we actually don't know who it is, but it's kind of like a figure that she's romantically involved with, I guess, in this scene right here. So you go through the scene and they do kind of like amazing out of this world shit and jumping around buildings and stuff. And then they go to a park, and this is probably the oddest part of the book. They're like making out in the park, and then these French dudes kind of show up, and then suddenly she's speaking French, and then they get into a fight and she kicks their butts and she's all overpowered, like maximum Mary Sue right here. And then she wakes up and she's like in a bookstore kind of, dozing off. And you get introduced to her friend with the problem haircut, and then another dude who's basically looks like maximum hipster right here. Like both of these characters, like I get what he was going for. This is very much a, they definitely look like they would fit in London, because I don't know if you guys have ever seen, I guess honestly just any kind of video special of people in London, right? It's a very hipster city to a degree, right? Like I don't know necessarily if you put London in like the same category as like Portland, Oregon, or Seattle, Washington in the United States, but it's pretty hipster, right? So they have some kind of there's some dialogue back and forth where you get to kind of get the feel and the personality of these two characters, a little bit of her too, right? And then you got a scene of her on the train, and she kind of sees like something in the shadows, then disappears, and you're introduced to Arthur. So Arthur, at least my understanding is Arthur is the character in the beginning with the hat. And after a little bit of interlude talking, he basically passes down a shoebox of just old crap for her. And it turns out this is like a photo of her and her father. And, he kind of passes down, some things that he was kind of like saying, oh, I feared, what your past was. So I kind of hid all this stuff from you. And he's feeling like some regret and whatnot. And he's kind of old and dying and other stuff. I don't know. I kind of burned through this scene, and it didn't really, since you didn't really get to like see how these characters developed each other or grew up with each other. This scene, the words had weight, but the actual, what I felt going through the story, since I was so thoroughly confused about what the heck is going on and why is what it is, it just felt like it was like Michael Bancroft wanted me to feel like there was weight in this. But ultimately, I didn't know this character. He just kind of stole this child away and gave some really lame excuse for why he couldn't save her father. And then I get another lame excuse for why he didn't tell her this whole time. And I don't know. Just whatever. This dude, right? So she puts on the ring, and then you get a bunch of scenes of her, like, I guess, like, experience some other time. And I guess this is Rome. And then someone tells them, some like, fire dude shows up, and he tells them that, we are Isham, Herald of the First. You will take his light and carry it with you, etc., etc. And then I guess he becomes like them. And you get like a weird scene where he's on an ocean, and then he, washes up, and there's some centurions massacring some people. And then all are worthy. I have no idea what this means. And then she wakes up, and she's like, Damon, help me. Damon, there's a lightning bolt. There's a dude. And then it's like a wave. Is this like the wave from Interstellar? I don't know. Everything just kind of reminds me of Christopher Nolan, but more confusing. And then lightning bolt, she ends up in West London. And I guess this is Damon. And then we're left on a cliffhanger, and we're told to be continued in the next book. So, you also get these little interviews with the characters, which are kind of interesting, right? And some of them are like this character, you only got like a little bit of, but he goes like more into depth with this character and whatnot. And they're not bad, they're kind of interesting, right? Also, why did he black out this character's face? Like, he actually showed this character off, in the book, so there's like no mystery what he looks like, right? I don't know. Honestly, I went through these character things, and they're like really clever and fun dialogue, but the entire time I was kind of like reading through this, and I was like, well, why don't you just incorporate this into the story? Or better yet, since you did all of this, why don't you just give me more of the story so I'm not left on a cliffhanger? At this point, I get it. Everybody just wants to do what they want to do, and they want to tell the story that they want to tell. But if you are into wacky stories, like dreams within a dreams, that kind of stuff, and you don't mind waiting a long time, because you will be waiting quite a long time, especially with the pacing that Michael Bancroft has here. He has a very slow and deliberate pace. Like, keep in mind, this is like 70-something pages within here to basically reach like a climax point. And again, it doesn't say to be finished, in Painted Death. It just says to be continued. So there's no guarantee that the next book is actually going to finish this story. My guess is it's probably not, right? But, art is pretty good. I think the backgrounds are nice. The story is without a doubt not for me, so I personally am not going to back the next one, because now that I know what this is about, I'm not really interested in seeing where this is going. To me, this isn't my cup of tea. But I will give Michael Bancroft props. It is a well-made book. It was delivered in a very timely manner, and I think it's an interesting concept with a lot of hard work and love put into it. You guys all know what I'm about, right? I want a complete story. I want the characters and the setting to be somewhat understood. Like, the only thing I know at this point is that we're in London for most of it, and then there's a bunch of flashback and scenes in other random spots that I don't know why they connect to what they connect. But my guess is it's kind of a mystery book, so you're kind of supposed to, wait till you figure it out in the end, and there's something clever about it in the end. But again, it's still half a story, so I'm just left here very confused, right? So for some people, that's a good thing. But for me, no. Anyhow, guys, that's the video review. Let me know what you think. If you liked this video, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. If you got any comments on The Lucent Waking Dream by Michael Bancroft, leave it down below, and I will see you next time.